Hey, good evening, truck and tractor pool fans, antique pulling world. We're little different scenario here tonight. We got a great show lined up for you tonight with Midshore tractor pullers with Owen and Richard, and it got pretty scary about an hour ago. I lost internet in my office. The whole area, the whole neighborhood, everything here is dead. So I'm actually out in my truck. Fortunately, with just enough internet to get everything kicked off and going here for these guys. And again, guys, if I drop off, you guys continue with the show because it will run once it's started here now. So we have one other person yet coming in, I do believe. But Richard Nolan, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. You got a hell of a cast of people here, and looks like it's going to be a good show. So take it away, guys.
Hi. I appreciate everybody being here. Richard really likes the promo not being gone, dropping the tractor weight like he always does every time we have a show.
Sorry. Next time.
But we might have to do a double whoop, whoop, whoop thing like you do on a DJ does on a record type of thing for him next time. Just out of kindness. All right. So we have some wonderful guests tonight. Our show tonight is Behind the Hook. The summertime's coming up, and there is a lot of sleds running everywhere. So I am focusing on sleds tonight and things to do with sleds. And there's a lot of these sleds are NA NOAA sleds, fully insured sleds with NOAA Sled Association. A lot of them are backyard sleds. But still, the rules of sleds apply, and behaviors around sleds apply. So I got 3 different sled operators. Well, Richard's been a sled operator too. Me, I prefer not. With the different sled operators we have from different territories, maybe they can explain some of the things they've been through and seen. I was hoping to have an additional Steve Zimmer from the National Sled Association come on and remind us about the safety aspects. We also have Mr. Chrome right there in the middle of the screen. We have Terry with Agtronics on. We got Justin from the South with the Collier sleds. We got Logan with the Decision Maker sleds. I've seen everybody in person so far but Terry, which I'm glad he's here tonight because I had a nice conversation with him earlier today. And I've seen a lot of things happen at sleds and around sleds. So, Richard, you have any questions you want to start off? Let me keep on going.
You're doing so good.
Well, I'm gonna stop right here, and I'm gonna let my Mr. Chrome speak for a second and wake us up a little bit. Matt Stauffer. You okay? Here. No voice. Matt has lost his voice. Well, I'm gonna tell you. Well, Matt's saying and can't make a comment. He's involved with a group in Cecil County, and he has a bingo coming up in the next couple of weeks where they're going to actually take a cow and play bingo with the cow, leaving cow pies on there. And I think Matt, means he has nothing to say, probably has something to do with bovine intervention, and he's going to communicate with that cow. He's going to try to win on the cow pie. But anyway, I just teasing Matt for a second. I see on the top of the screen, I see Kev. I went out and visited Kev at Kev's Field of Dream. Kev, you're going to have to pronounce your last name for me.
Menchhofer. Can you hear that? Menchhofer?
Thank you. I'm not going to do it twice. I'm not going to go back and do it. But I was out there with you, and I seen a lot of very interesting things going on at your pool. I've been with Justin with the sleds down in the south. I've been with Logan, the sleds up in the north. And everybody, just about everybody I know runs Agtronics. And Terry there is going to fill us in on what's new in Agtronics, what has been approved. If you guys got questions at the bottom, well, I don't know if we can take questions today, can we?
Jerry, can you see the questions?
Can I see what?
Can you see questions and comments?
No. Not on my screen.
No, Richard, I cannot see on mine. In my situation here, I cannot.
Okay, we're not gonna be able to take questions and comments tonight,
All right.
unfortunately.
Well,
Yeah, sorry,
unfortunately,
guys.
Not live anyway.
is Matt back to speaking?
Well, can you hear me this time?
Yes, I can, Matt. Glad to have you back.
Okay.
I've not had a chance at you.
Well, so when we're backstage, you guys can hear me fine. As soon as we go live, it doesn't work. So I had to ditch my laptop and I'm on my phone. So
Wow, that's loud.
I'm back.
There we
Matt, I'm gonna let you start off with the first couple questions, and I'll let you pick which guest we'll go to first for the question.
Okay. Well, before we do that, I hate to do this 2 shows in a row, but we have to start
You
off.
do it anyway. Go ahead and be yourself.
Well, I'll start off on a somber note. We lost another puller way before his time. Actually, last week, 23-year-old young man by the name of Bailey Drake from Central Maryland, pulled with the West Virginia crowd, Central Maryland, up there, Glad Hills. And he pulled with his 2 younger brothers, Mason and Kanan, and his dad, Jad. They were down, well, Bailey wasn't, but the dad and the 2 sons were down at Chatham this year. They were up at Harrisburg, do a lot of pulling. He was, good young puller, and he was taken in a motorcycle accident last week. So, yeah, unfortunately. Kevin and Martha Muller, who some of you may or may not know, are putting together it's actually a truck show in his memory on October 4th in conjunction with the Frederick County Farm Museum Fall Show. I think I got that right. And there's an event out there. You can look for it. JR said he couldn't share it because of his internet issues tonight, but just wanted to make mention of that. Keep the Drake family in your thoughts and prayers.
Before, while we're on that type of stuff, how's Noah White project coming along?
Oh, I don't know. We don't have any of those folks on, do we?
Not tonight. I didn't know if you heard anything.
No, I was hoping I should have touched base with them. I mean, I sent some parts down, and they were off the machine shop, and they should be coming along. But yeah, we should definitely try to get JJ or Carl on.
Do a quick refresher of what Noah White was about.
What's the Noah White project?
Yeah, do a quick refresher.
Oh man, you're picking my brain here. So I'm not sure if he's local. He's local to one of the clubs down there, either Virginia, Tennessee, North Carolina. I don't actually know which one. Just started getting into pulling, and then he was in an auto accident and is paralyzed from the waist down. So while we were at Chatham, I guess he was there, and he has a wheelchair that's got like a tank tread on it. And I saw him, but I didn't know the story, and Carl West asked about him and got the story, and he said, well, why isn't he on a tractor? So they got him on a tractor, and he did pull down there, and then they got the idea, we're going to build this young man a tractor so he can compete and actually, maybe do some special things to him since he doesn't have use of his legs, hand brakes and such. So bunch of those boys got together, and it was a tremendous outpouring of support that I've seen. And they had some early videos and pictures of them tearing. They pulled a tractor out of the weeds and they pulled it into JJ Kinsey's shop and tearing it down. And I know there was a block out for machining. I sent some engine parts down. I think they actually have everything they need, I would think. I know Tim Yates was going to donate a set of wheels. So their goal is to get him. They're having a pool at the Kinsey farm, I think in August. I think they want to debut it then. So.
All right.
But they said they would. Yep, they would drag him down and the tractor down to White Pine as well. So something to look forward to.
So there's a lot of good projects going on out in the groups. All right. And there's some polls coming up, and we'll address them later on. Right now, yeah. We ready to go on into sled questions now?
Yeah, I was going to save this one to the end, but I'll throw it out there if you want.
Go ahead.
So this will probably get me into trouble, and if I ever run into any of the sled operators, they'll probably give me the eye. And I know I see Logan on occasion at some polls. I've never met him, but we have some mutual friends. And I prefer not to pull with a drop hand sled. because there are a lot of times where the pan comes down and really nails you. And next thing you know, you're skying the front end, and we all end up in the same 2, 3, 4 feet. Now, I will say for Logan, I don't see that happen when he's running. So if the sled operators could talk to that, we're not modified guys. I never run above 6 mile an hour. I typically run like 3 or 4. We don't need to be.
Most of the tractors are under 6,500 pounds, correct?
Yes. I think we've all seen sleds operate where it's kind of a gradual loading, and it's much better for us. And then we've all been at pools where it slams you, and that's no fun. So I just the operators could talk to that if they have a lot of experience pulling with antiques, or secrets they could share, or things they do or don't do with the antiques versus, let's say, a super stock or something that's running 25, 30 mile an hour.
That's probably one of the biggest phobias antique pullers have when they get above a class 7 sled. Is the pan going to come get them or not? And Justin, Logan, Steve, Kev, I know think yours drops, does it?
No, mine don't drop. It's on the ground the whole time.
That's what I thought. Yours is interesting. Front tires go through the floor of the pan. I had nothing like that. Anyway, it's amazing. So, Logan, Justin, do you have any to the antique world when they're dealing with sleds and sled operators and sets and things? Like I say, the biggest phobia they do have is drop pans. And I do know small sleds or pullback have drop pans because a lot of times that's how they actually stop tractors at the end of the track. They run out of something. And even Buffalo Valley has a drop pan, and they do all 3.5 to 6 mile an hour, correct?
Yeah, they actually throw the brakes on when the box tops out, which puts us all in the same 4 or 5 feet, which is
So the subject of drop pan and stuff like that is actually, like, you can actually go on and say it goes to more than just the 7 and 8 sleds. It's a lot of places. Be interesting what sled operator says. Let's hear from one of you. Hey, Justin,
you want to go first? You've done this antique thing longer than I have.
Well, from my experience with that, I used to pull antiques, and I actually hooked to my old sled quite a bit. And at that time, it was a drop pan sled, and it had a mechanical drop on the pan. There was no way to shut it off or anything. So I got my belly full of it back when I was pulling. And once I bought the sled and made some changes to it, I set it up 2 different ways. You either just leave the pan up or you let it float right off the line going down. So either way gives you a steady load as you go down the track, at least a lot more so than if you're dropping the pan, because with antiques, sure enough, they like to pile up in one spot if you drop the pan, and there's no fun in that. Like I said, I've been there and done it, and it's just kind of luck of the draw a lot of times on that.
and it doesn't help the track none when it does that too. The track suffers under them conditions too.
Yeah, you end up with a big hole down there at the end of the track, and that it's tough for the track crew to maintain. They don't have to do anything for the first 250 foot, and then the last few foot it's tearing it all up. So it makes it a little harder on everybody when it's like that.
I think, I don't know if it was you or Logan I was talking to. You guys are aware of the problem. I think one of you was telling me he was loading the back of the box with weight instead of the front of the box, trying to mediate the actual impact of it in the sled function. Is that correct? I don't know which one of you said something like that to me.
Yeah, I mean, with my new sled, it's a little different from what my old sled was, but I actually set 2 weights on the back of the pan now just to try and help give the antique guys some load quicker off the line. Pulling the mile per hour stuff, particularly if you get into running the higher mile per hour, 8 and 12, those guys need some load early on in the pool to be able to get their speed set. And the trick is you're trying to give them load early on, but also keep it easy enough to take off with. And, you're kind of trying to find a balance there that works. There's a lot of trade-off in that, but that's how I usually try to set up like that. And to try to give them a little bit more of what they're looking for in it.
And as the guy who sets the sled, when you have multiple speeds and multiple weights, that does get to be a challenge, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can. I mean, it changes a bunch if you're working your way up. You know, if you're just starting, say 4,000, you go 4,000, 4, 6, 8, 12 mile an hour, and then start back over at 4,500, whatever. It's not too bad, but do quite a few pools where they'll jump around on that. And you want to talk about earning your money at those pools. I mean, you're just kind of shooting in the dark at times, trying some stuff out, but it's tricky at times for sure.
Is there something that you would like to say to management of pools on that subject? Like, hey, be prepared. We might have to go back after 2 hooks and restart or something.
Yeah, I try to tell them, you know, if we're doing something like that, I've talked to them before where their classes are kind of jumping all over the place, you know, kind of figure out a way to politely tell them that all bets are off on, you know, this pool going smooth as far as getting the settings right off the bat. You know, we're just going to try some stuff and shoot in the dark when you make a big jump like that. I mean, it's an educated guess, but it is still a guess. So, sometimes you get it right and sometimes you get it wrong. And I mean, sometimes you get it wrong even when they're working their way up, just, you know, going the easy way with it. So, you know, we just try to take the best shot at it.
Do you find outdoor tracks change more during the day or indoor tracks change more?
Usually outdoor tracks do, especially if it's, you know, you start during the day and goes into the night, and you're going to have 2 different tracks you're pulling on as the moisture comes up as the night goes and stuff. But indoor tracks, they'll change some, and typically what you run into them is just higher hook numbers. So, you know, I've hooked classes before that had over 100 in the class, you know, and it's 3 or 4 different tracks through the course of that as they dig out a hole and then work that hole out and build a road and tear a road up and all that down through there. But
do you see a change in that coming adjustment in the 100 tractor classes and like become divisions in the future where you pull 25 and the final top 2? Logan, you get in on this too. Do you see a change in all that behavior? My voice is
We got a really bad echo.
It's
something that,
Yeah, something. When I brought Matt back in, it started echoing.
Matt, you out again.
You want me to leave? It's just me on my phone.
No. Just hit your mute.
Oh.
How about now?
All right, there you go.
Yeah, now we're nice
It's
and clean.
fixed.
Yeah, it's
There you go.
all right, Logan, and Justin, both of you, and Kev, don't be afraid to have thoughts in the back because I know you got a lot of sled experience. And Terry, if you see something you would like to comment, don't be afraid to say, "Hey, I need a word in here." Okay. With these big classes you just mentioned that we see, do you see a change in structure coming in the next few years on when they run these big classes? Are they going to break them up and run divisions, or are they going to stay big, you think? I know it's a matter of time.
Well, I mean, as far as for me, I've seen some that have done that. They've broken them up into heats, which I like the idea of it. You know, for however they do it, they may break it up into 10 different heats or 10 different flights where you pull 10 tractors. The winner of that 10 will come back at the end. And if you have 10 classes at the end of the pool, you basically have a 10 tractor pull off the winner from each flight. And that helps give everyone a chance to pull on a little more level playing field as far as that goes. And I've seen a few more places trying that, and it seems to work out pretty good for everybody that I've seen so far.
From the cab of the sled, does you see it look like a more fair hook going on for the tractors, or just a different way of doing things?
Yeah, I think it can be a little more fair, just depending on what your track's doing. But yeah, I you know, like I said, a class that big, that, you know, I've had them, like I said, a little over 100 hooks. You know, that takes a few hours to pull. So there's no way your track doesn't change quite a bit as you go through that. So At the end, if you can break them up like that, then that really helps you, I think, get a little more level playing field. It seems like it anyway to me, sitting up there.
How about you, Logan? What do you see?
Yeah, definitely. When you got that many in a class, you need to do something. Even if you've got, let's say you got 100 in one of those big classes, let's say for every 25, you're going to make a heat. And out of those, you've got group of 25, let's say we're going to take the top 3 out of those 4 groups, and we're going to come back and have a 12 tracker pull off or whatever when all that's concluded.
And from the cab of the sled, does it look like you get the better tractors that way showing up at the top? Or
Well, like Justin said, it just gives everybody a more equal shot at the track and a shorter time frame instead of running 100 hooks on the track all from start to finish, and the track changing, and the guys towards the end of the class, the track's tore up, and they don't matter how good a tractor or how good a driver they are with their setup. If the track's gone, they're just not going to get there.
Mm-hmm. And I think we've all, as pullers, have experienced it. It's you got to notice it in the cab of the sled, what's going on at the same time. It's got to be a little bit on the frustrating, like, hey, listen, I see these last tractors are having a rough time, but the early ones had a rough time, but the later ones are getting down the track. You guys are setting the sleds, I know, to give a fair, consistent hook. So it's not can't exactly be fun for you either. On that. Mr. Stauffer, you still around?
I am here, yes.
Hey, you want to chime in on that song?
Well, I think we saw that. We've seen that heat thing. They did that at Chatham this year, right? Where they broke it into heats. And I think, the track can change, like you said, so much that I think it's more of a level playing field. But just to give you an example, when that wasn't done, that one charity class at Chatham this year, there were, 85 tractors or whatever. And the winner was pulled in the first 10 tractors. I hoped at like 64 or 65th, and I still ended up third. And I know Terry Brown and Bill Neese hooked right ahead of me, and they were like fourth and fifth, I think. So I don't know. The track does change, and sometimes it can go way downhill and then come back. Sometimes it just goes downhill and goes away, and you're done. So I think, like everybody's saying, if you have that big class breaking into heats, I think kind of level the playing field as much as possible.
It's still no easy management for the guys running the pool to deal with. It's not easy.
No. But if you declare you're doing that ahead of time, everybody knows it, and I think you would have less of an issue than if you didn't and the track went away after the first 20 tractors and nobody got close. You know what I mean?
I think that's one misconception there too, though, that everybody assumes that with a bigger class, the earlier hooks are always going to be the good hooks. And that's like Matt said, and like Justin said, sometimes the first you get out there, somebody around 15 or 20th tears the track up, somewhere around 35 puts the road back in, and you may have the end actually have a better track than the beginning because of the way the sled worked it back in. Because I don't care how good a track crew you have, the best packer you're ever going to put on that track is that sled.
Mm-hmm. Let's jump up to Kev. I haven't heard that much out of Kevin. Kev, you there still?
Yeah, I'm still here.
You got input on this?
Yeah, you definitely want, if you have that many in a class, you need to break them up. I see it where we have people, the way we sign up people, we let them sign up wherever they want to on the paper. 90% of the time, the people at the end of the class will win the class.
Okay, so it does, but that is more so with your particular dirt that you work on.
We're clay track. It's indoors. We keep a lot of moisture to it. It's a lot different than running on a dry, hard, dusty track by far.
All right, so I'm going to change it up here a little bit. on another subject that's come up, and I'm not sure it was. I think it was you, Logan. I think it was, but I'm not sure. We was talking about speed cone, and we was talking about people watching the cone, and I think I've talked to Kev about it too. And the speed cone location and the horn, and we have signboards now, and there's a lot going on. And I think that I think there might be some stuff coming. Terry, you want to lead us off in some of that now?
Yeah, yeah. If you guys don't mind, I don't know if you'd be interested or your listeners would be interested, but I'd like to tell you how we got into building the measuring systems to
I
start
would like
with.
to know. Yes.
As you guys probably already know, we are an agricultural business and we design and build electronic equipment for row crop farmers mainly is what we do. And we used to do the Louisville Farm Show. And I think it's about 1998, 1999. I had these two guys come into the booth from Pennsylvania, I believe, and they wanted us to build a measuring system for the pulling sled, which I didn't know anything about pulling sleds at the time. And I talked to him a little bit about it, and I said, that would take 6 months to 9 months development engineering to build that. And I go, it wouldn't be worth it for us to build up a unit for you guys. So they left and they come back the next year and they beat on me again, said, man, we really like to have a measuring system. Can you do anything for us? We're willing to pay for it, up to a limited amount. And I turned them down again. I said, no, I go, we're not interested. We just got too much going on. They came back the third year, same guys, and they beat on me. And, I thought, I think I'll take this on myself and I'll just design a little measuring system for them to use on their sled, and they'll go away. They won't bother us anymore. So we built them one. We called it the Eliminator. It was the only one we built, and we put it out there. And at that time, I had no idea how popular tractor pulling was. And they went to 2 or 3 polls, and the phone started ringing. People wanted to buy this system, this Eliminator system. So we sat down and talked about it, and then we made a decision to take our planner monitor and take and rewrite the code in it, and we had to add some hardware to it and do some redesign on it, and we turned it into our first sled monitor. First sled monitors did not have radios in them, so it's just a single monitor, read speed and distance, had the alarms in it, pretty much like our current system is. We put that out there, and a year later, we came out with the radio link system because people were wanting to get some way to get the readings up to the judge's stand so they could record them. And man, the rest is history. So it took off, and since we launched that back in early 2000, we've got 1,600 consoles out there. A lot of those are dual consoles. So our calculations is we've got about 950 sleds out there across United States, Canada, Sweden, and England, which we've
Wow.
only sold one system to England and Sweden, but we count them.
Wow.
Are those converted to, are
We
the
keep
ones in
thinking every
foreign countries?
year that our numbers are going to drop off. Like I said, dude, we're going to saturate the market. We're going to fill it, and to date we haven't. And and then along with the sled monitor in 2007, we introduced our LED remote displays that go down at the end of the track. We've introduced here 4 years ago our mile per hour unit that goes on the pulling tractor to give the guys speed for the antique pulls that are speed limited. This year, we came out in 2025, we came out with our tax system. And for those events that are RPM limited, we've got a system that goes on the pulling tractor and wirelessly transmits the RPM value to a console on the sled and will alarm the sled operator that they exceeded the RPM. And then what we do at the end of the pull, when they disconnect, the signboard at the end of the track displays the maximum RPM that was achieved during that pull. So we introduced that. We had a prototype at Shipshewana 2 years ago, and a flood of phone calls came back off of that, and we're still getting phone calls on it. People
Now,
go, yeah, we went to ship Shawana. We seen you guys' RPM board. We're interested in it.
now,
And it's been 2
Terry,
years in development.
is that is that? I'm on the East Coast. That won't fly on the East Coast too well.
Why that?
I'm pretty sure Matt would say that won't fly too well on the East Coast. Is that area Pacific that buys them time boards? Okay, it's Matt. Is that an area Pacific that would buy them sections of the country that buy certain things?
We haven't noticed it being difference in different parts of the country. I mean, we sell just as many measuring systems in the East as we do the West or the Midwest.
How about the RPM boards and stuff?
The RPM board's brand new. I mean, we just introduced it this spring.
Okay.
Why don't you think it'll fly?
Well, there's certain areas that are more RPM conscious than other areas.
Yes.
And that's what, and I don't mean it won't fly, because I know areas that is very, very popular in. And that's why I asked you, was there areas that do more one thing than another? Just tractor pullers are unique in areas that every area has uniquenesses.
Well,
and then it's like tire sizes are unique to
the
areas.
antique pullers.
Yeah.
It's a safety issue. I think it would be great.
Well, that's very true. Because I've seen some excessive RPMs at times, and it might be a part of what's coming up in the future, and we don't even know it yet.
Well, do you guys know this? Do you know that the insurance companies, there's rumors that they're going to start requiring RPM monitoring equipment at the polls to insure them?
Well, it very well could be, and being ahead of the curve like that and having it out there could be very interesting. Logan, Justin,
I want to cut in there for a second. Terry's RPM system, I know Justin's not far from it, but Southern Indiana farm stock pullers, that is an entire club based upon pulling larger farm tractors like your 1066s and stuff like that 10,000 pound plus. And that club, I think, might have been one of the first ones to kind of use the prototype RPM system. And when you're talking about those bigger tractors with a DT 466 turbo engine and your bigger John Deeres and stuff, it's real easy to turn an RPM screw on a P pump or an A pump or whatever and cheat it to 32 or 33, just a little bit over, It's not necessarily, I think, I know you're starting to get 466s with spark plug heads in part of your 460s and stuff in antique pulling, but it's those big tractors, the big heavyweight stuff, where it's real easy just to turn of a couple screws to get those above 3,000 RPM. And like Terry said, your insurance companies, the way the world works today, they're gonna really start getting down on stuff if it's turning. Honestly, me personally, I can kind of see, maybe it might not be too far in the future, they might even require anything more than stock RPM may start being required to have like a clutch warrant form for a steel flywheel and maybe even a bell housing blanket or something of that nature. So, I mean, we should really be lucky at this point that they'll let you do 3,000 RPM stuff. But it's the ones that always want to squeeze a little bit more out of it that will cause a problem somewhere, and they'll, God forbid, there's an accident and there's an insurance claim, and then we're all in the same boat. So,
yeah, we're all back there quick, aren't we?
Yep.
So that is very interesting, and I'm actually glad to hear about it and see that there's ones running it, and the turbos. I could see where that would really solve a lot of turbo issues and insurance issues in the future, and other classes as well. We'll see what happens next. I wish Steve was here tonight, Zimmer, but he was with the insurance side. I'd like to hear his response.
On that side of the open.
We'll have him back another time and readdress this. Justin, Kev, thoughts?
Yeah, they all say 3,000 RPMs. all these 466s. Um, I've been running a sled for 39 years now. I can tell you every one of them it's running more. They say, oh, well, I run 3,100, maybe 3,200. Well, then, you'll have one starting 3,500. I think it's a great idea, but they'll find a way to get around it somehow. They'll be able to cheat it. Everybody's out there trying to cheat something. So, it'd
Well,
have to be really computer sensitive so somebody can't figure out how to cheat it.
You know what? I'll put a bounty out there. I'll pay somebody $1,000 if they can figure out a way to cheat our system. I'll give them $1,000 to cheat it.
Okay.
well, that's a pretty good system you got there.
No,
Could
I
could
just
you
don't
explain
see a
it just
way.
a
I just
tad
don't see
bit
a way
more,
you can
Terry?
cheat it.
Could you explain it just a tad bit more, Terry?
Well, what we do is we monitor the crankshaft is what we monitor for the RPM, and we've got a sensor on there that senses a piece of key stock that you epoxy to the harmonic balancer or up there on the front pulley, and then it goes to a computer that's on the pulling tractor. The computer on the pulling tractor, it derives the RPM and then it radio transmits it back to the sled. So if you take and, well, okay, we've got some safeguards built into it. For instance, let's say a guy puts a switch in there and he just opens up the circuit to our computer so there's no pulses coming in while he's over revving. What's going to happen instantly is the sign down at the end of the track is going to display 0. So just as soon as they see the RPM go away and the engine's still running, man, it's no contest. The guy's cheating. He shut down the RPM transmitter.
So you have different size pulleys on the front of the motor. Is that like a measured thing that you calculate to get the magnet from and all?
No, it's RPM, so it's revolutions per minute. So it doesn't matter whether you've got a 3-inch pulley or a 14-inch pulley. It still only makes one rev, one RPM, one revolution per minute is the way it detects it. So no, the size of the pulley doesn't make any difference.
What's this cost going to be per puller then?
Okay, the monitor and the 12-inch sign that goes down at the end of the track, 4-digit sign, LED sign, that's $2,600 for that part of it. And then for the computer and the wiring harness and the gear tooth sensor that goes on the tractor, that's going to be like $250 a tractor. But if they want to, they don't have to buy a computer for every tractor. Like a club could buy just the RPM sensors and harness, and then they could swap the computers in between the tractors. And so like after a guy makes a run, he passes it off to the next guy that's in the staging arena to put on his tractor to save him some money. I mean, the couple of systems that we just sold here recently, one club, they just bought the system and 42 tractor says $250 systems for everybody in the club is what they did. And it's a one-time buy. It's not like if something's going to wear out or you're going to have to replace it. And it's wireless. So that means that the hook guy doesn't have to mess around with another cable back there to hook and unhook. And it means that you don't have to worry about yanking out a cable and shutting the system down for the rest of the event because somebody didn't unhook something or the cable got snagged on something.
So how far does the transducer send it? So if you have a tractor and staging and it has one on it and you have one on the track and one pulls off, how's all that work?
That's a very good question. What we did is we monitor the signal strength coming from the transmitter. So what it'll do is it's going to connect to the transducer, to the transmitter that is closest to the console or to the antenna. Okay, now that could cause a problem. Like if you're at a track and you let your tractor stage right next to the cab of the pulling tractor, that's going to be the closest one. It's going to want to lock onto that one. So there may have to be some changes made in the way you run your vent. You have to have the tractor closest to the console that you want to connect to. And we've done this in the shop. And if as little as 2 feet difference, it logs on to the first one. So if I put 3 transmitters all running on the bench and I play the shell game with them, the transmitter that is closest to the console, it locks onto it every time. And then for further on the transmitter, which we recommend be mounted at the back of the tractor, like on the seat post, and it comes with magnets on it, so you don't have to drill your tractor, you don't have to bolt it on. It's just got magnets that hold it on. And what we recommend is the hook man. There's 3 lights on there. One that's powered up, and then there's another one showing that it's got signal. That there's a green light showing that it's got RPM going into it, and then we got a blue one that shows that it's linked to the console. So as long as that blue light is on the transmitter unit, the hook man knows that it's paired. That's the one it's paired to, and it's going to read
And the
that tractor.
receiver is located where? The receiver is located where?
It's located up in the cab with the or it's loaded. It's located on the sled.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's a good setup.
The guys will have to bolt them on because there's very few got steel all the way back there by their seats. Most of them,
You know
all
what?
of
I've
them.
been working with a pulling club and up north, up in Kokomo, and we went and all 20 of their tractors. Every one of them we could magnet connect it to the back there.
I heard about that bunch, and I've talked to several of them pullers. I know about that bunch, and it's interesting what they got going on with that. And I didn't realize when they was telling me that's exactly what it was, but I heard about that.
So I do have one question. So you say it always picks up the closest one. So once it locks onto that one, does it stay locked onto that one, or?
Okay, very very good question. On the console, there's a graphic screen like your iPhone or something like that. It's a touch screen, and on it, when the tractor hooks up to it, you hit a button that says pair, and you pair it. And then what'll happen is it'll say paired, and it'll instantly start showing an RPM on that unit and showing RPM on the 12-inch sign down at the end of the track. And so, I mean, that's how you know it's paired.
I mean, I like
You
that
know,
question.
we've had to make quite a few alterations on it, working with Mike and his gang up there in Kokomo, and we found out we ran into some. I mean, just to give you guys some ideas of
Yeah, I know Mike.
sophistication
I know
to
Mike.
this. We took and we were having problems with when they would be on the line, they'd be hooked up, and when they first revved up the tractor, those tractors that those guys run has a governor on it. The governor would overshoot the RPM and come back. Well, we were tripping the alarms, so we wrote code in there to take and ignore that. So you can actually at the start line you can fire it up, you can rev it up. We know it's going to overshoot a little bit and come back. We don't alarm out on that overshoot at the startup. So there's a lot of sophisticated code in the computer that it's doing a lot more than a sun tack just reading the RPM on your tractor. It's
So the question we had coming at the bottom of the screen, I don't know if you guys can see it or not, is it about the crank trigger.
yes.
Now that's just glued to the crankshaft, correct? Or magnet or sticker.
You take a piece of key stock and you epoxy it to the crank.
So if you had, I mean, how long have you had that system out there?
We've been in development for 2 years.
Have you had any problem with the epoxy failing, the key stock coming off the crankshaft?
We have. We've had 2 tractors. We had a problem with it throwing the key stock.
Because that was the question that came in. Basically, obviously, if the key stock comes off, the RPMs are going to stop reading on the tractor. It's going to go to zero, and that tractor is going to appear that they did something to kill the system and be disqualified at the pull.
No, it's going to appear that there's a malfunction because it went to zero and stayed at zero.
Okay.
And the reason the key stock fell off was it the application of the epoxy, or?
You know what? That's a very good question. We're assuming that's what it is. That's what it was. There's epoxy. We worked with several different companies on this epoxy, and the one we decided to go with. I mean, the tensile strength on it. It's It's not the same as if it was welded on, but man, it's right up there in holding power of being able to hold that key stock on there. So I think it's a matter of we just got to be we just got to caution the users that they got to have a clean area there, and that epoxy, and you guys have used epoxy. If you don't get a good mix on it, it's not going to hold. So if they didn't stir it well and get the two A and B part together, or if they try to cheat it, if they only squeeze out half the pack,
I did on a
they don't
cold
really
day
get
or
a
something.
50-50 mixture, and it doesn't, they got to squeeze out the whole pack. They got to mix the whole thing, use what they need, throw the rest away.
Well, while we're talking about unique programs and all, are you going to have a program that's going to let you get away from having the guy watching the cone at 100 foot, and where they can blow the horn to 100 foot, and then after that, if you set the distance in the monitor, in the monitor, yeah. After that, then that distance counts as a DQ for speed or not. Is that coming?
You know what? We've got that built into. No, we don't. Yes, to answer your question, yes, and that is a problem that we want to address on there. And we've got a new version of software coming out that's going to address that, and it's going to address the problem of the guys wanting the relays that drop at certain distances, or relays that close at certain distances to either drop the pan or I don't know all the technicalities on the sled, but there's other options on there that they want. There for a couple of years, we were selling a dual relay control module that you could run in tandem with our M3, and we stopped making that because, to be honest with you, it cost us more money to make it and sell it than we weren't making any money on it. Basically, was the reason we dropped it. It just wasn't a money maker for us. Not the guys didn't want it. It wasn't a money maker, and we're coming up with a new design that is going to have that built into it.
It's a real concern with pullers because you have to have somebody sit and watch the cone, and extra help is always at a premium. And somebody sit there all day long and watch that cone and verify that, hey, yeah, tractor blowed the horn after a certain distance.
Yep.
That does get to be a challenge. And so it is very much interesting to pullers. And I think Justin, Logan, Kev can all attribute to, I've had conversation with all, that cone, and when the horn blows after that cone, it is an interesting subject with pullers.
No, and we realize that is a, I'm not going to say it's a problem. It's an issue that we need to resolve.
I mean, Logan, is your horn loud enough for all pullers?
Some days.
How about you, Justin? Your horn loud enough?
It's pretty loud, but you never know.
You have something to say? I didn't hear it, right? Kev, yours loud enough?
Well, I think it is, but I got somebody pullers says, well, we never heard it, but and they got a 6-inch stack on a DT 466 running 3,500 RPMs. It's pretty hard to hear it.
So you see, Terry, they're looking for a situation. They're looking for a solution to that cone and the distance.
That very same issue has been the driving factor behind rule changes before too. As we know, there are clubs that doesn't matter if you bumped it to 6.2 coming off the line, you're disqualified.
Yeah, and
no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You were over speed.
Yep, and there's a lot of them that speed. You let the clutch out and you let it out too hard, you go over your 3.5, and guess what? You're right, because they don't have nobody to watch the cone. They went that way. A lot of pullers don't like it. Not at all. And then a lot of pullers, and when you have the 8-12 mile an hour classes, they really like that cone to get their tractors dialed into the location. That cone is huge.
Well, Justin touched on it earlier. When you're running those kind of classes, especially when you're all playing the crapshoot with the classes back and forth, if you take off with basically a light sled and you expect the sled to be there, there's no way to set there's no way to set your momentum right. You're bouncing off both sides of the ping pong table right off the get-go.
Wow. Justin, Logan, you got any thoughts there? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I tell you, that would, if we could come up with a situation like that, a deal that would, handle the cone situation, where the counter would be able to tell that yes, it was the speed was broke past whatever distance you got the cone set at. That would be really nice, because it's, still it's subjective. I've seen pullers argue it and say, well, hey, I was watching the cone, I wasn't past it, but the guy, running the cone said I was, and things like that. So that would take kind of the human error element out of it, and be able to put it on the machine instead. So that would be nice. And yeah, like we were talking about earlier, I mean, that's the thing with the sled. You're trying to give them a load. If they're taking off and they don't have any load behind them, and it's hard to get slowed down sometimes by the time you get to the cone, especially if you're on an indoor track where you're running really short footage compared to what you would be outside. They take off, and then it's in a few seconds they're at the cone trying to slow down, get their speed down, and or they go past the cone, think the sled's there. It's not. They hit the throttle and just blow right past the speed limit. So, there's a lot of things going on there that will be taken into consideration.
Well, you've seen a lot of that in Tunica and stuff.
Well, that goes into another conversation with the sled operators. So take what Justin just said. We know what we're fighting when we take off with the sled and we're trying to get adjusted at the speed cone, or like you said, we're backing off too far. 9 times out of 10, especially in the indoor arenas, if you're fighting that getting there, unfortunately, about the time Justin called it dead on, if you think you could just lay back into it and the sled's not quite there yet, well, now you're jammed up. And if in most cases, another 5 foot later, if you haven't rolled back into it, now you got all the sled and you're not going anywhere anyway. So I guess fine lively, no cone is the best cone.
There you go. That's it. See,
I mean,
go
that's
back to that.
That's one theory. But I think as pullers, we realize what we fight to go through that. But I don't think if you haven't sat in that sled and you haven't been drugged back and forth, you don't understand what a crapshoot and a guess and a whole lot of thinking and thought goes into trying to make it so you don't have that problem and you still give everybody a fair hook. Like Justin said, if I set it too heavy, they take off. Now they can't get adjusted. Because if you set it too heavy, they build up too high to get took off. Then you're fighting all that. You set it too light, they don't have any load. They don't have anything to adjust against.
They blame you for your clutches going out.
It's not as easy, yeah, or your cranks being busted. It's not as easy sitting in that seat as everybody thinks. And even past that, the guys that actually have to come up with how they're going to set it is challenging, especially when the tracks are changing on you. You may end up with a mud hole. You may end up with a track that fell through.
And hey, if your track crew is busy taking care of the end of the track, the starting line on them 8 and 12s sometimes doesn't get cared for. So it gets a little dicey on that starting line. And you don't want the sled to come up and love bump you about 100 foot down the track from not having you.
Well, I'll tell you all, as far as the starting line goes, I've had some of my roughest rides behind 8 and 12 mile an hour tractors taking off at the start line. I mean, rougher than some of any others I've had pulling 35 mile an hour, just because if they're not taking care of that start line on the track, it can be bad.
So as to the guys taking care of pulls and tracks, message would be, please take care of that starting line. It makes things a whole lot easier, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Makes our life a lot better up there in the sleds, if nothing else. I'll say that. But, it helps the pullers out too. You don't have the sled coming out, bobbing up and down, bouncing, carrying on. It's a smoother ride coming out, a little bit smoother load when you don't have that big speed bump that the sled's trying to hop over.
Same for you, Logan?
Yeah, track crews, a lot of times they might fix immediately where the tractor tires started spinning at the starting line, but they forgot about that other 35 or 40 foot behind that the sled's got to back into and roll over to get out past where the actual starting line is at the 0 point.
Yeah, you guys can end up with some awful grooves back there you back into and have to come out of. I've seen you guys back up and pull ahead and haven't fixed that before at different poles. And it can be awful ugly at the starting line for the sled and the tractor. Kev, you have thought on that?
Well, It's my own track, and I build the track. I keep it dry underneath the sled, and I keep it dry where they start the first 20 feet if I can, and they don't tear up the track near as bad.
And you start a lighter tractor that way without it.
Yes, you get the 3750 pound tractors. I run the same weight at 3,500 as a tractor running 14 mile an hour weighing 5,500. My sled weighs the same amount at any time.
And Justin Logan, so do you like a dryer starting line where you set your sled at? I know I see sometimes you're sitting on concrete, which is really nice because your starting line never changes then, except in
I,
front of the pan.
I've
Yeah,
told
but
guys it'd be
sometimes that transition from concrete to dirt, usually that's where you'll have a problem at. But yeah, like what Kevin's talking about, if it's actually dirt and it's all the same grade and same material, the leave where the sled pad is, so to speak, to leave that dry is the best thing. And kind of back to what Justin was saying with light classes, heavy classes. Seems like I always get stuck at a show that wants to go light to heavy, but they've tore the track up with a chisel plow. They put 5,000 gallons of water in it, and it's soft and it's gooey, but we got to pull 3,000-pound tractors first. And you back the sled in there, and your tires are sinking in 2 or 3 inches and don't want to roll. And you're trying to figure out how to get a 3,000-pound tractor to pull a 35,000-pound sled. Sometimes it's better to go the other way, but
Yeah, it's something you tell them pull
you
out of
do
the way.
whatever the promoter wants you to do, I guess.
Well, I gotta agree. I've seen it many times that I wish they'd jump about 5,000 pounds of tractor and fix the track. And then I don't know, any of you ever been to South Jersey? Oh my gosh. They do, they have the biggest rolling schedule of weight changes of any place I know.
You gotta bring your biceps when you go.
Yeah, you only want to pull 2 weight classes because if you pull 3, you have to move 3,000 pounds at one time. If you tried to pull 3, it's that much change in the numbers. But what I did always like was they'd slip a Detroit class in of 9 or 12,000, and then you show up with the 4,500 pound tractors. I'm talking, that's the time you want the first hook for sure, because they have sent them road graders down the track at 8 mile an hour, and it's a nice track to ride behind them guys.
Well, if you have the people running the pool and the sled operators and the track crew all working together and all actually understand what's going on, the sled will fix the track just as much as it will tear it up.
And
No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And when you have a wet track, the sled's the best thing to dry it out with. But you got to put the right tractor up there with the right sled set.
and you all can see that too, I'm sure. And then pulling from there's a couple pulls that pull light to heavy, heavy to light one day, and then when they do 2-day pulls, then they pull light to heavy the next day. That's interesting. We have found that when we were running pulls, when you change them up, make go heavy to light, you talk about an upset bunch of tractor pullers.
You got that right.
Oh, yes. I've never seen such disorganization as pulling heavy to light.
I'm not taking all that off. So I have to load it all up, go back on.
It's hard on the sled operators too to get the sled set right then too.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that is one of the most unique formulas on everybody to pull heavy to light.
Well, yeah, it is.
But it is really nice when you can stick a heavy bunch of tractors in and fix a track real quick and come back with the light tractors.
Right.
It makes a big difference.
And there's quite a few. Central Maryland likes to do that occasionally too. They'll put a bigger like DT class in the middle of say 4,500 and 5,500. So again, if any class, especially if you're running a sled that has diggers, any class the track's got some hooks on it. It's starting to get tore up. Put a big tractor on it. Put some of the diggers down. Let a sled operator that knows what they're doing. Justin talked about bigger classes putting the road back in. That's how the road gets put back in. That sled will do more than a roller will any day, all day.
It's 35,000 pounds.
I ain't seen a roller's gonna pack like that thing does. I am curious of that though. On an average, how many times do you guys have to change sled settings for an average pull? Do you try to come up with a setting that works from say 3,500 to 4,500, and then maybe change at 5,000? Do you try to get from 35 to maybe 5,006 on the pulls that you're running? Let's say the full schedule of weights and the full schedule of speeds. How do you normally try to gauge that? Because that was one thing I always had a lot of fun with. I mean that very sarcastically.
Well, man, I guess.
Yeah. Go ahead, Justin.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I was just sitting here trying to think through it in my head, and like you said, if you're running the full schedule of classes and all the mile per hour and all that, typically, I mean, as far as weight goes, when we're doing a pull like that, I try not to ever change weight on the sled. I try to, put it in when we start and not do any changes until we're done. But typically, about every class, I'm changing gears on the sled. I've got my setup, it's got a lot of gears on it, and it just depends, if you're pulling 4 mile an hour and you're a little tight, they're not getting as far, then you can leave it alone for 6 mile an hour. I'm just about every class I'm out changing gears on it pretty much. But weight, I definitely try to leave that alone just because big pulls like that, we got enough to do besides taking time to change weights in the sled. So if we can make it work with one weight setting, that's what I'll do.
Mm-hmm. I want to hear Logan's answer.
If you'd like to hear what Logan's response is, and Kev's too.
Well, Justin's more of a professional antique puller than I am. My biggest thing we do nowadays is the Mid-Atlantic pull at Harrisburg, which anybody knows Ray, we call him G-Paul, that runs the blue sled. He's one of the promoters, you call that event. And it seems like it's always light to heavy. Justin's Bower built sled has an added feature that the rest of us don't have. He actually has a profab drop box in there that he can slow his gear range way down. That gives him more usable gears for pulling antiques. Since we don't do that many antique pulls, we don't do that. So we have to kind of start with lightweight, and like he said, we'll pull till we get, we want to get the light tractors and the slow classes down there to start with. And the next class, next higher speed or next 500 pound heavy or something, we might bump up a gear or block the box out a hole or something small. And then once we start getting down there and start getting too close for comfort, so to speak, to whatever the full pull mark might be, if we've made it to third gear or whatever, and they're dragging it pretty easy. When we go up to the next one, whether it be 45 or whatever class may be, we'll take just a second, take the skid steer, set another weight in, and we'll slow the gear back down once we put a weight back in it, and we'll go through that process until we get to the point of needing another weight again. Now I've done some goofy stuff. I like to try stuff. When we do the pull at Harrisburg, a lot of times we've got our mini sled in there, and it's got 2 weights that are only about 1,100 pound a piece, like half weights. And one time on my red sled, we had 2 weights in the back of the box or something, and I thought, I'm gonna go over and grab those 2 1100s out of the mini sled, and I'm gonna set them on the back of the pan. And Richard, the owner, he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I don't know. I'm trying something." It worked pretty good. It kind of made the transitions of the sled a little smoother. And once I got them on there, I think I ran the rest of the day with it like that. Now I tried that on Ray's blue sled here back at Harrisburg for one fast class on, I think it was Saturday. And it didn't work on that sled. It just made it take off like a bulldozer. So we pulled that one class. I think it was a 15 mile an hour class. I finished that class. I took them right back off. It just didn't work on that one. So, like you get a kind of a range, as far as, like Justin said, we don't want to move weights as little as we can, but you get an idea for how the track is and the tractors you're running, and whatever you start with, you run till you feel like you've changed gears or blocked out to enough that where you just need weight. Take just a second, add one more, and back off the gear and start all over again, and go through that cycle till you need another
one. That's interesting. Kev, you have any thoughts? I don't think you.
I usually run. I got 2 transmissions. I usually only run about 3 gears. I do block my box up sometimes. It's only a foot block, but that's enough from 4 mile an hour to 6 mile an hour. But then when we get up to the heavy classes, I just set the back of my pan. I've got adjusters on it. I can just set it down a little tighter to the ground, and it worked. As we get heavier, I just crank it a quarter turn and just keep on going, and it works out. Most time works out pretty good.
I enjoyed hooking on your sled too. Quick question: you like floating finishes or designated finishes?
Well, at my place we just use a floating finish. We have never has a designated.
Well, okay, I understand that. How about Justin and Logan? You like floating finishes or designated finishes? Or it depends on the facility.
It can depend on the facility. It can depend on, the show. I won't lie, floating finish is easier on the sled operator to get a setting right. You're not trying to hit an exact number there. You're just trying to get close. So that makes our job a little easier. But, sometimes adding a pull off to it adds some excitement, or if you're low on numbers of equipment, it helps extend the show out. And I like doing them every now and then just because it keeps me on my toes, makes me think a little bit more. But, if we got plenty of equipment there and stuff, I'm usually pulling for the floating finish, just to help keep the show moving. And it, like I said, I won't lie, it makes it a little easier on us too.
Okay. Logan?
I agree with Justin. The floating finish is easier, but if you're a spectator, I feel like a pull off it adds entertainment value to it. You have in other forms of motorsports, drag racing, circle track racing, whatever, you have a designated finish line that you visibly see the vehicle cross, first or whatever. They're not doing it at the same time and pulling, but to have a pull off or two in a show, it really, I think it makes it more entertaining. It adds to the drama, so to speak.
All right. One more question. Then we're getting close to ending time. As a courtesy to the sled operator, are you offered a reasonable amount of time for a sip of water to get out of your potty break or rest area? I was talking with Steve. There was a pull happened a month ago. Sled operator had like 8-10 hours in the sled. Got a little sleepy. Things got a little cattywampus. The flagman was tired. Is there something that you would like to say to management of pools? And hey, I seen Kev take a half-hour lunch break. Is there something that should be considered in management of pools to allow for the sled operators to get out and stretch? You wouldn't catch me sitting in there for 8 hours in the wet, bouncing in that thing. That happening.
Like when we do the pull at Harrisburg, it's 2 days pretty much all day long. We start at 8 a.m. I think, and we always try to. I think this past year there was at least 4 of us there for 2 tracks running. So we could swap around. Nobody had to stay in there nonstop, but the show itself was able to keep going. Now, if I had to go somewhere and do that by myself, then absolutely, yeah, we're gonna pull for a little while and then just give me 5 minutes and I'll be right back. I got pretty good at eating hot dogs and stuff, riding back and forth. It's not too bad at 3.5 miles an hour. So,
okay, Justin.
Yeah, in a perfect world, when we're doing a pull like that, there's more than one of us there that can run the sled, so you can swap out and stuff. But I've done plenty of them where that's not the case. And I mean, it's, you're taking in between classes, you just set the brakes on the sled, turn the red lights on, you dash for the bathroom. You call a buddy, ask them if they'll grab you a hot dog from the concession stand, to get by. A break, a little bit of a break every now and then is all right. If we've got a big show with a lot of equipment there, I don't want a huge break because, everyone just wants to keep the show moving and let's try to get out of there at a decent hour. But a little break here and there, you're not going to hurt our feelings. Actually let us get out and stretch our legs for a minute and catch our breath and just step outside and hang out for a few minutes. And it can make a difference, especially if it's, we've done some of these marathon pools. I Oh, and you may have been there back, was it 2017, 18 in White Pine when they did their bracket pull? And I think we
Oh,
pulled.
God, it's terrible.
Yeah,
Oh,
we pulled. We started at what 9 or 10 that morning. It was 4:30 the next morning before we got
I was
done.
involved in some of that. Yes.
Yeah, I was ready to. I was just ready to do
You're back
anything
the
other than
next
pull
day
tractor.
pulling
So
at 9:10. It's a tough. You're back the next day. It's tough.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
you know, I get concerned about track crew, and I get concerned about sled operators, and I think there needs to be an understanding both ways by the pullers and management, and it has to be dealt with. Because I also have seen and heard where there's situations where it wasn't dealt with, and it went ugly, got bad. So
That's when bad things happen when they're both.
yes, and so don't want that. And we all know there's situations that happen and make pulls run late. There's restarts, there's recalibrations that have to happen. Something gets cattywampus, or there's things happen, and we all know we've been a part of them. It's not unusual. Just be patient, work through it. Have a conversation and deal with it. So we'll get closer anytime. Matt Stauffer, you have any thoughts while I'm getting close to my end here?
I'm just going to make a comment.
Or you're not.
Or maybe not.
Maybe not.
JR, how's Matt looking? He gonna come back?
JR can't talk. He's like,
Sorry, I'm muted. Yeah. Guess he'll come back. It dropped out. As soon as he started talking, it dropped out.
All right,
That's weird.
I want to jump back to Terry real quick. Terry, you got some final stuff you'd like to tell us about before we'll get close to the end of the show. We're going to do only so long, and then we get off the air.
You know what? The only thing I can say is that I just want to thank all the people that are using our system, and the reason that I think our system is as good as it is because these sled operators have given us a lot of guidance and useful information. We are not sled owners, and we're not even tractor pullers. We're electronics people that build electronic equipment. We write software and to fit the needs of our customers, and it's the end resulting of the unit that we have now and all the products we've built out there is from the input from the sled owners that have given us of what they need, what they like, what they don't like. So, I just like to say a big thank you to all the sled owners that support Agtronics and buy our equipment and use our equipment, and for all the useful input that they give us. And let them know that anytime they've got a suggestion or would like to see an improvement or an idea, pick up the phone and call and ask for Terry.
Terry, quick
I
question.
still answer the phones.
Quick question. The subject of the sign boards and the speed board, particularly, and the distance board, mostly the speed board, is there getting to be less hang time between the monitor, the horn, and the speed board? Or is there an update that guys should send their stuff in for to close that distance so they don't have that? Because pullers would say, hey, I was reading one thing, next thing you know, I got the horn, and the board didn't show it till like afterwards. Pullers always worry about stuff like that. Is there an update that we need to know about, or it's getting better as time goes on?
No, we're working on a massive update that's going to be coming out here. We're going to be field testing it this summer. In 2026, there will be a major update to a lot of the features on the sled system. There'll be things like the relay drop, like you guys are talking about the cone problem. There'll be a fix in there for it where you can actually put in 75 feet. You want to relay to either open or close, so you can put it in series with the horn circuit. So even if it's blowing, it's not going to happen until they get to 75-foot mark. And there's a lot of other things that we're working on in there. I mean, I don't want to give away too much because it's still in field testing. I can't promise it to come out. We're actually working on a laser measuring system instead of using the gear tooth sensor that we're using now on the sleds. It actually is going to have a gimbal on it that keeps it aligned to a target behind the sled. So as you drive away from the target, it's actually measuring how far the sled is away from the target, which is exactly how far the sled pulled it down the track. And so we've got a lot of cool stuff that we've been working on, and we're still working on. I can't give you a promise date as when it's going to be released, but just to let you know that we're not sitting idle on our haunches here. We're actually working and developing on some new equipment, such as the tack board that we just released on there. That was 2 years in the making right there to get that to market. And we probably still got a way to go on it. We're still probably going to be some software tweaks on it. There's going to be some enhancements, some improvements to it as we get more and more systems out there, and we get feedback from the sled owners and from the tractor pullers.
And don't be afraid to call you and ask questions.
That's right. Yeah, just ask for Terry.
Okay, that's important to know. Who to ask for? Okay. Mr. Stauffer,
Roland, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me or not?
Yes.
Okay, before you lose me again, I just wanted to say that the automated 100-foot cone judge would put a lot of arguing to bed. So I would love to see that come to pass. And then I was chuckling at your reaction about the RPM monitor wouldn't fly in the east. It would make it very interesting, especially some of these indoor pools where we know that 3,000 is, some of these guys are well beyond that. So, I mean, it's a rule. So if it's a tool to enforce the rule, I would love to see it, because I don't know what you do with John Deere 2-cylinders, because that's not really an issue, 3,000 RPM, but maybe some other number is. I don't know. That's all I wanted to say.
There'll be a lot of discussion on that in the future.
Yep.
But it is nice to know there's a tool coming that can be utilized to keep in check. And as we all know, the next group of pullers will probably want power steering and a turbo. So now you have a way to make it that they can get in and fit in safely with a tool that can keep track of the RPM to keep the turbos in check, and allow them to get down the track, which is phenomenal when you think about it. Because the next group of pullers really does want a turbo and smoke. And what happens to pickup trucks and pulling them and stuff? It all fits together. It's a big family of pullers that it fits in with. So it's very exciting. And thank you, Terry, for telling us about it.
You're welcome.
And my sled operators, all three of you, enjoyed being around all of you at many different times. I pulled with every one of you, and I've seen situations you went through, and some days it's not easy. It's very challenging to deal with the pullers and an environment you're in and situations, and just keep the good work up. And it's a big group, as Terry said, 900 monitors, 900 sleds that they think they know of is running Agtronics. And that doesn't even include the ones that just got a measure wheel drop down on a tire. So that's a pretty big sport going on, and everybody working to take care of it is very important. Richard, you have any thoughts? You want to go around over against it?
Let's go around and
Go ahead.
okay, well, I need the screen back, so I'll go around the corner.
All right, Jerry, what's the screen back?
All right. Well, Mr. Stauffer already got his 2 cents in.
Oh. Matt, what's the prognosis for Kansas weekend?
Well, as you know, the points pool, PA traveling points pool is supposed to be Saturday at Forksville. There's some chatter online tonight. What do you guys think about having it? And they were going over the check the track. It depends on how much rain they got and how much they think they're going to get between now and then. So they're either going to make the call tonight or early tomorrow morning is what they said.
And that's the Colton poll, which is really looking promising. They got on Friday. Canada's coming up next weekend, and there's a bunch of other polls going on too. So
And
to get them guys.
if the weather holds out, you can pull heavy to light and then light to heavy at 2 days in Middle Creek at Selinsgrove. Since you guys enjoy doing the heavy to light and light to heavy, there you go.
Well, Well, thank you for notifying us.
Sure.
We'll see what happens. All right, go ahead, Richard. Okay, let's try this again.
Logan, you can go first with any final thoughts, final statements you want to make. I know as somebody who's sitting the sled all day long, it's not as much fun as everybody thinks, and it's unappreciated a lot of times. But fact is, we couldn't do what we do without sled operators. That's just the way it works.
Well, I tell people all the time I'm my biggest critic. And yeah, doing a long all day show, I'd probably get a little short tempered than most people do, especially when I make a mistake of my own. I don't necessarily need to be reminded of it. But I want to hit the nail on the head every time. If I do my job right and everything on the sled works right, no issues, then a perfect day for me is nobody has anything to say about me or the sled one way or the other. You know, no news is good news usually. Only when you make a mistake will they fuss about you. And I was probably the first one, one of the first ones that called Terry about the speed cone thing for the Agtronics. I want to thank Terry and what they've done at Agtronics for this development of the systems and what they do. The GPS thing was great the other year. It let us with the sleds, that used to push down to pick up all the tires. It gave us a dependable measuring system for pulling fast stuff that we didn't have to have a laser guy somewhere. I use my Agtronics even if I'm not using the monitor at the announcer stand. I keep it on when I do a big pull because I like to know how fast we're going. I actually use my ground speed a lot to try to set my sled, and it just helps me to know what's going on. And maybe one thing, since Zimmer's not on here, and Justin can, I don't want to bring up a whole nother can of worms, but Justin can help attest to this. When they really got on us about the tab on the tip of the hook, I think that was 2 years ago, and all that stemmed from some mini rods coming unhooked, and it wasn't big vehicles, but they had to inspect everything and they had to enforce the rule. And I had to put a bigger tab on the tip of mine, and so did Justin, so did everybody, especially on these bigger sleds. And then we start going to antique pulls, and the hook won't fit. Well, you can raise Cain at us all you want to. We're doing what the Sled Association and the insurance company tells us we got to do. It's been a rule for a long time. I think somebody said maybe back into the late 90s about the 3 3/4 thing. No, it hadn't been enforced. And like I said, it wasn't even big vehicles that pushed it. It was mini rods, and they made a mini rod sled, put a latch and hook on them. But we still had to go through all the motions for everything with a big sled. So, yeah, we're the faces of it. We're out there with the sled with the big hook that won't fit, but back off. We didn't do it just so it wouldn't fit in your tractor. It's nothing personal. We done it because we had to do it.
I think that hole should be 4 inches just for safety measure.
Well, no, it's supposed to be 3 3/4 because it's supposed to be a certain size and the hook's a certain size that it'll go in and it'll come back out, but it's not too big that it doesn't roll and jump back out of a hole that's too big. They mean 3 3/4. Obviously, it's probably not going to happen at 6 or 8 miles an hour, but at 30 plus is when it happens, and it's hard. It's harder, and I think Justin can attest to this. To take a level 7 or a level 8 sled and pull antiques, you're basically taking a machine that was not designed and built to do that kind of thing, and we finagle around and figure stuff out, and we make it work. I think I toot my own horn, but I think it's been done pretty well. Our mini sled is half the size of a level 8 at the level 5, and it works great for pulling antiques, but it literally weighs half as much as a big sled empty. But at the end of the day, we do the best we can. We're not out there to get you or anything like that. And if we short jerk a class, nobody knows that we missed it worse than we do, and we're already thinking in our head about, all right, well, that didn't work. We'll finish this class. Next class, I need to lighten back up. Or if I put half a class out the gate and have to have a pull off in the indoor pool or something, then I'll do my best not to, stop the next class at 100 foot. I want to be fair to everybody. So we're human. We make mistakes. We just try to do the best we can.
And it's not as easy as everybody thinks either.
Nope.
All right. I'll bounce around. We'll keep it on the sled operators and we'll let Terry go last. Justin.
Well, piggybacking a little bit off what Logan said,
Hold on, Justin. He muted you. Terry, get it together.
Hey, I'm working out of the net here.
Well, he still shows muted.
There you go.
There we
Try
go.
again, Justin.
Sorry.
All right. I was saying, piggybacking off what Logan said, I've actually got a sticker on the door of my sled cab. It says, "We don't do this because it's easy. We do it because we thought it would be easy." And that's, it's not entirely true. We didn't think it would be easy, but it's definitely, I think, we're all honest with you, harder than what we thought it would be. And I went through it a few years ago. I bought another sled, and thought what I learned off my old sled would just roll right over to the new one. And that learning curve was a whole lot steeper than I thought it was. And it's taken a while to get it set up and working somewhat better. And it's far from ideal, but, I'll say to the pullers, me, and I think most sled guys, we value your feedback on this stuff. We improve by what you tell us. There's been plenty of times I've been sitting in the sled and thought everything was going good at the pool. And, then after the pool, everyone's mad, so it's hard for us to tell exactly what you guys feel down there hooked to the front of the sled. So we value your feedback. And, I made a lot of changes over the years based on that. And, sometimes you hit on something and it works really good. So, that I'm like Logan, I really, nothing aggravates me worse than having to reset my sled and do things like that. So I want to go out there and give everyone the best shot that I can. And, just thankful for all the pullers that are willing to come out there and hook to us and help us, be better at our job, because we enjoy doing it. We're definitely not in it for the money. Running a sled for a business is kind of like, running a sled for a hobby. There doesn't seem to be much difference in it dollar wise. So, we have fun. We just appreciate everyone that's willing to come out there and make it happen for us.
All right. Thank you. All right, Kevin.
Yes. We're all a pulling family, and I've been around a lot of these guys for the last 30 years, and all, and if one of the first pullers of the class makes it out, he's gonna have a full pull or a float and finish. He's way out there, and you bring him back and rehook him, and you knock 30 feet off him, and he's not even in the top three when the class is over. That kind of, they kind of frown on that, but sometimes you mess up. You just got to switch gears, and they're not happy with you, or they blow the horn and get disqualified, and they think we blow the horn. Well, it's automatic, Agtronics, it goes off, on its own, so it's just better luck next time. It's just it's a hobby, so you do your best you can and try it again.
Mm-hmm. Thank you there, Kevin.
All right. Mr. Terry, you have anything you want to add? Sounds like there's a lot of improvements, and obviously it's appreciated by both the sled operators and the pullers.
Well, first of all, I'd just like to thank Olin for inviting me on to this podcast tonight. I've enjoyed listening to you guys and some of the issues you guys are up against. And, I've known for a long time that there's a lot going on in that tractor seat of that sled. And I think somebody said it earlier, everybody thinks it's just joyriding down there and back, but there's so much more going on in there. And we realize that at Agtronics. And one of the things that our goal is to make you guys' life easier. All of you guys, I think, have been pulling long enough. You probably remember the cones and the measuring tape that you got out to measure distance, or you had to hire a laser guy to do it. We started out, I know that every system we sold, we got if you weave the sled down the track, it shows longer distance than the laser. and we were always compared with the laser guys, which is true. It is. And my argument to them was always, well, you know what though? It's fair for everybody. If the guy can win by zigzagging all the way down that track from edge to edge, then everybody should zigzag down the track edge to edge and get the most distance they can. But that's not the case, and you guys know it's not possible to do that. So we've come a long way at Agtronics since we started. We've learned a lot. We're still learning a lot. And again, as I said earlier, I just want to thank all the sled owners out there that support us and give us input and let you know that we're there for you, and we are listening to what you guys need. So again, thanks for inviting me on the show. Appreciate it. And, you know, hopefully maybe at the end of the season, you guys can bring me back on and hopefully tell you how great our tax system is and give you a bit more information on the new stuff we got coming out for 26.
That's a good thing. Yeah, we'll do that, Terry. We'll keep in touch.
Okay.
Mr. Crone? Mr. Crone can finish it.
Mr. Crone,
Since we don't
thank
have
you,
an
Terry.
exit video either.
Yeah, well, he might do the melody for it.
Matt, you already hit me on the final round.
All right. Well,
Oh, you don't want to go again?
Well, I think we ought to close it.
okay then. Guys, thank all of you for being on tonight. Every one of you has a very unique position in tractor pulling and field of endeavors and doing things. There's a lot of it out there. It takes everybody doing everything to make a pull happen. As always, teamwork is everything in pulling until the hook comes on. Well, when the hook goes on, then teamwork's over.
Pretty much.
It's pretty a solo sport then. But until then, it's a lot of teamwork. Double tree's a neat thing. That's another subject. But thank you all for coming on. We don't have an ending promo. You all been wonderful guests. I hope to see you again. And you never know you never know what we'll do on this show. That's for sure. We don't know ourselves. Thank you. JR.
Yes, sir.
You're gonna have to shut us down, sir.
Okay. Appreciate everybody coming on. Logan, gosh, I forget everybody's names. Like I'm looking at a screen that's like 1/8 the size of what I'm normally used to seeing. But appreciate everybody coming on, and I guess we'll be back in about another month, right, Olin? Somewhere around there.
We generally try to do one show a month, right? Somewhere around a Thursday, generally around 15th, 17th of the month. And that's what we generally do.
Yeah. Looks like my internet came back on. I see that I'm hooked up back onto the house internet, even though I'm out in the driveway in the truck, but yay. But anyway, apologize that we had to cut some corners here tonight and I couldn't bring on some flyers and stuff for upcoming events and stuff. So, but hopefully we don't have that happen again. So that's all I got to say. And until the next show, I guess we'll see you then.
I didn't have to drive away from you.
Thank you, guys.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Good night, everybody.